I think we both know this isn't working anymore, David said, not even looking up from his phone as he delivered the words that would shatter our 15-year marriage. I stood in our kitchen, my kitchen, the one I designed myself when we renovated last year, gripping the counter to stay upright. Because of her? He finally looked up, his expression a practiced mask of false sympathy. Amanda and I. It just happened, Elizabeth. These things happen. These things happen. As if falling in love with your 25-year-old secretary was as inevitable as rain or taxes. As if throwing away 15 years of marriage was as simple as missing a lunch meeting. How long? My voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant and hollow. Does it matter? It matters to me. He sighed, the same exasperated sigh he used when explaining simple concepts to people he considered beneath him. 6 months, but it's not about the time, Elizabeth. Amanda and I, we connect on a different level. She understands me. I almost laughed. Amanda understood him. Amanda, who'd been his secretary for barely a year. I'd supported him through law school, working 2 jobs so he could focus on his studies. I'd helped him build his law practice from nothing, spending countless nights reviewing contracts and organizing client files. She's half your age, I said quietly. Age is just a number. He stood up, straightening his designer tie, the one I'd given him for his last birthday. I've already talked to Kyle about the divorce. He'll have papers drawn up by Monday. Kyle, his best friend and the firm's top divorce attorney. Of course, David would have already arranged everything. He'd probably been planning this for months, moving pieces into place while I decorated our house and planned our future. I'll be staying at Amanda's place, he continued, as if discussing a minor schedule change. Take whatever time you need to, sort things out here. Sort things out, like I was organizing a messy closet instead of picking up the pieces of my shattered life. One question, I said as he turned to leave. Was I ever enough? He paused at the door, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Guilt? Regret? But it vanished quickly, replaced by that practiced lawyer's neutrality. You're just, different people want different things, Elizabeth. Amanda's more, he gestured vaguely, dynamic, career-focused. I stood there long after he left, staring at the life we'd built together. The kitchen where I'd taught myself gourmet cooking because he loved fine dining. The living room where I'd hosted countless dinner parties for his clients. The office where I'd helped him build his practice into one of the city's top firms. Everything in this house screamed of the life I put on hold to support his dreams. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Maria. Girls' night still on for tomorrow? I stared at the message, tears finally spilling over. How could I tell her? How could I admit that while I'd been planning dinner parties and redecorating our house, my husband had been falling in love with his secretary? Rain check. I typed back. Something's come up. The next few days passed in a blur. Kyle's office sent over the divorce papers, complete with a post-it note suggesting I review and sign quickly to expedite the process. David had already signed his copies. I sat at our dining room table, my dining room table now, according to the proposed settlement, reading through the documents. 15 years of marriage reduced to 48 pages of legal jargon. That's when I saw it. Buried in the division of assets was a clause about David's law firm. Husband retains full ownership and control of Morgan and Associates legal services, including all client relationships and business assets. I remembered the nights I'd spent building their first client database. The weekends sacrificed to organize client files. The relationships I cultivated through all those dinner parties. I don't think so, David, I whispered, reaching for my phone. I called Patricia Chen, a lawyer I'd met at one of those countless networking events. Unlike David's country club friends, Patricia had worked her way up from nothing. She'd built her own practice while raising 3 kids as a single mother. Elizabeth? She sounded surprised to hear from me. Everything okay? I need a divorce lawyer, I said. Someone who isn't afraid to go up against Morgan and Associates. Silence for a moment. Then, come to my office. Now. Patricia's office was nothing like David's sleek, modern workspace. Her desk was cluttered with family photos and case files, and her walls displayed her children's artwork alongside her law degrees. He's trying to screw you, she said bluntly, reviewing the divorce papers. This clause about the firm, it's not just about the business, it's about silencing you. making sure you can't compete with him. Can he do that? She smiled, a predatory gleam in her eye. Not if we play this right. Tell me something. How much of the firm's success is because of you? I thought about it. I built their entire client management system, organized their filing system, most of their major clients. I cultivated those relationships through networking events and dinner parties. And did you ever receive compensation for this work? No, I was his wife. It was just expected. Patricia leaned forward. Elizabeth, you weren't just his wife. You were an unpaid consultant who helped build a multi-million-dollar law firm. And now we're going to make him pay for that. The legal battle that followed was brutal. David was shocked when I contested the settlement, even more shocked when I demanded compensation for my years of uncompensated work. Kyle tried to paint me as a bitter housewife seeking revenge, but Patricia was better. She had documentation, emails, party plans, client testimonials, evidence that I'd been instrumental in building the firm's success. In the end, David and Kyle had to settle. I walked away with $2 million and, more importantly, no restrictions on my future business ventures. What now? Patricia asked after the final papers were signed. I looked around her office at the organized chaos that somehow worked perfectly, so different from David's sterile corporate environment. An idea started forming. How much would it cost to start a consulting firm? I asked. Specializing in law firm management and client relations? Patricia's eyes lit up. With your settlement money? You could build something significant. But, she hesitated, you'd be competing with David's firm. No, I smiled. I'd be building something better. That night, I sat in my home office, no qualifiers needed, and started planning. I'd spent 15 years supporting someone else's dreams. Now it was time to chase my own. I called Maria. Remember when we talked about starting a business together back in college? The management consulting thing. God, that feels like a lifetime ago. What if it wasn't too late? Silence then. I just quit my job last week. Been too scared to tell anyone. I laughed. Perfect timing. Maria had an MBA and years of corporate consulting experience. I had intimate knowledge of law firm operations and a robust network of contacts. Together, we had everything we needed to start something extraordinary. 6 months later, Wilson and Rodriguez Consulting opened its doors. We specialized in helping law firms streamline their operations and improve client relations. Our first client? A small firm run by 3 female partners who left one of the city's biggest practices to start their own venture. Within 2 years, we'd grown from just Maria and me to a team of 15. Our reputation spread through the legal community. We were the ones to call when you needed to modernize your practice, improve client retention, or completely overhaul your operations. I rarely thought about David anymore. Through mutual friends, I heard he'd married Amanda 6 months after our divorce was finalized. They posted perfectly staged photos on social media, charity galas, vacation selfies, #blessedlife updates. Then came the day that changed everything. Elizabeth, Maria poked her head into my office. You need to see this. She handed me a resume, freshly printed and professionally formatted. The name at the top made my heart stop. Amanda Morgan. She applied for the senior client relations position. Maria said quietly, her interview is scheduled for next week. I stared at the resume, noting how she listed her current job. Office manager at Morgan & Associates. So she'd gotten a promotion from secretary. How progressive of David. Does she know? I asked. That I own the company? No, Maria smiled wickedly. We operate under the parent company name. Most applicants don't realize you're the CEO until they're hired. I looked at Amanda's perfectly curated resume, remembering David's words from so long ago. Amanda was more dynamic, more career-focused. Keep the interview scheduled, I said, but move it to the executive conference room. I think it's time to show just how career-focused I've become. The morning of Amanda's interview, I arrived at the office early. Our headquarters now occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise. A far cry from the small office we'd started in 5 years ago. Everything's ready, Maria announced, walking into my office with 2 coffee cups. The executive conference room is set up. Amanda Morgan's scheduled for 10 a.m. I took the coffee she offered, inhaling the familiar aroma. How many interviews has she gone through so far? 3. First with HR, then with the department head, finally with our senior team. Everyone says she's qualified, but Maria hesitated. But there's something off. She's polished professional, but there's this undertone of entitlement, like she expects special treatment. I smiled grimly. Interesting. Did she mention her connection to Morgan and Associates? Only that she's their office manager. No mention of being married to the owner. I checked my watch. 9:45 a.m. Time to prepare for our meeting. The executive conference room was our most impressive space. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering spectacular city views, a massive mahogany table, and state-of-the-art technology built into every surface. We usually reserved it for major client meetings. I settled into my chair at the head of the table, reviewing Amanda's file one last time. 10 years had clearly been good to her career. She'd risen from secretary to office manager, earned a business degree through night classes, built an impressive resume. At exactly 10 a.m., my assistant's voice came through the intercom. Ms. Morgan is here for her interview. Send her in. The door opened and Amanda walked in confidently, dressed in an expensive suit that probably cost more than my first car. She looked older than I remembered, no longer the wide-eyed secretary in her 20s, but a polished professional in her mid-30s. She stopped short when she saw me, her perfectly maintained composure cracking for just a moment. Elizabeth? I smiled professionally. Please have a seat, Ms. Morgan. Or do you prefer to go by Mrs. Morgan now? She sank into the chair across from me, her face pale. I didn't know you owned Phoenix Global Partners. I supplied the name of our parent company. Yes, we tend to keep that quiet. Helps us evaluate candidates more objectively. She swallowed hard, gathering herself. If this is some kind of revenge play. Revenge? I raised an eyebrow. Ms. Morgan, this is a job interview. You applied for a senior position at my company. Did you expect special treatment because of our history? Of course not, she said quickly. I'm here because I'm qualified. Are you? I opened her file. Let's discuss your qualifications. What followed was the most thorough interview of Amanda Morgan's life. I questioned every aspect of her experience, challenged every accomplishment, probed every skill she claimed to possess. Not out of spite, but because I needed her to understand something fundamental. Your client retention strategies at Morgan and Associates, I said, reviewing her notes. They're remarkably similar to the system I implemented there 15 years ago. She shifted uncomfortably. We've modified the system over time. Have you? Because according to our research, your firm's client retention rate has dropped 15% in the past 3 years, ever since you took over as office manager. The market has changed, she defended. Competition is fiercer. Our client retention rate, I cut in smoothly, has increased 20% year over year. Would you like to know why? She didn't respond. Because we innovate, we adapt. We don't just maintain old systems and expect them to keep working. I closed her file. Tell me something, Amanda. Why did you really apply for this position? She took a deep breath. I want to grow. To prove myself. Morgan and Associates is limited. Limited? I almost laughed. You mean David won't give you any more promotions? A flash of anger crossed her face. This isn't about David. No, I leaned forward. Then let's talk about what it is about. 10 years ago, you were the young, dynamic secretary who understood David better than his wife ever could. Now you're approaching 35, stuck in a middle management position, watching your husband mentor new, younger secretaries. Her face flushed. That's not. Tell me, I continued relentlessly. Does he still say you're more career-focused than his ex-wife? Does he support your ambitions the way he promised he would? Or has he started suggesting that maybe you should think about starting a family, stepping back from work? Tears welled in her eyes. You don't know anything about my marriage. Actually, I do, because 10 years ago I was you. Well, an older version of you. The supportive wife who put her own dreams on hold to help build his practice. Until something younger and more dynamic came along. She stared at me, really seeing me for the first time. Why are you doing this? Because you need to understand something. I stood up, walking to the window. Success, real success, doesn't come from attaching yourself to powerful men. It comes from building something of your own. Is that what this company is? She asked quietly. Your revenge. I turned back to face her. No, Amanda. This company is my redemption, my proof that I was always more than just David Morgan's wife. I sat down again. The question is, who are you without him? Silence fell between us, heavy with unspoken truths. Finally, she spoke. I did love him, you know. I'm sure you did, I replied softly. But love isn't enough when you're with someone who sees you as an accessory rather than a partner. She wiped her eyes carefully, trying not to smudge her makeup. So I didn't get the job. Actually, I pulled out another file you did. Her head snapped up. What? Your qualifications are solid. Your references, except for the obvious ones, are excellent. And most importantly, you have something invaluable. Perspective. I don't understand. I smiled. We're opening a new division next month, specializing in helping professional women transition from supporting roles to leadership positions. Who better to help lead it than someone who understands exactly what they're going through? She stared at me in disbelief. You're offering me a job? After everything? I'm offering you a chance to be more than David Morgan's wife. To build something meaningful. I slid a contract across the table. The salary is competitive. The work will be challenging. And yes, you'll have to deal with the awkwardness of working for your husband's ex-wife. But you'll also have the opportunity to help other women avoid the traps we both fell into. David won't like it, she whispered. No, I agreed. He won't. But that's not your problem anymore, is it? She picked up the contract with trembling hands. Why are you really doing this? Because 10 years ago, I thought losing David was the end of my story. Instead, it was the beginning. Maybe it's time for your new beginning too. 2 weeks later, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports when Maria burst in grinning. You have to see this. David just arrived in the lobby. I checked the security feed on my computer. Sure enough, there was David Morgan, looking considerably older than the last time I'd seen him, demanding to speak with me. Should I have security remove him? Maria asked. No, I smiled. Send him up. David stormed into my office moments later, his face red with anger. What the hell do you think you're doing? Running my company, I replied calmly. Did you have an appointment? You hired my wife. I hired a qualified professional who happened to be your wife. Unless you're suggesting Amanda isn't qualified. He ran a hand through his graying hair, a nervous gesture I remembered well. This is a trick, some kind of revenge scheme. David, I cut him off. Not everything is about you. Amanda applied for a position. She interviewed. She accepted our offer. The fact that it makes you uncomfortable is irrelevant. I won't allow it. I stood up slowly. Allow it? She's your wife, David, not your property. Just like I wasn't your property 10 years ago. This is different. No, it's exactly the same. Except this time, the woman you're trying to control has someone in her corner. Someone who understands exactly what it's like to be married to David Morgan. He stared at me, really seeing me perhaps for the first time in years. You've changed. Yes, I agreed, I have, and soon Amanda will too. That's what scares you, isn't it? The thought of your wife becoming something more than just Mrs. David Morgan. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. You'll regret this. No, David. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. After you left, Maria came in with 2 glasses of champagne. Well, that was entertaining. I took a glass, clinking it against hers. To new beginnings. And old endings, she added. I looked out at the city skyline, thinking about paths not taken and dreams deferred. 10 years ago, I thought I was losing everything. Instead, I found myself. My phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. David just left. He's furious. Thank you for not backing down. I typed back, welcome to the first day of your real career. Later that evening, as I prepared to leave the office, I passed the photos hanging in our reception area. Our team, our achievements, our growth over the years. Each one told a story of someone who'd chosen to become more than what others expected of them. Tomorrow, we'd start helping another woman write her own story. And somewhere in the city, David Morgan would finally understand what he'd lost all those years ago. Not just a wife, but a woman who was always destined to become so much more.